Hello, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. I'm Bob Main. This episode, I want to talk about the frustrations of booking travel going to the Philippines. And I'm going to explain what's going on. I'm going to explain why I'm making this video. My wife is from the Philippines. My two stepsons are from the Philippines. This is going to be my 7th trip to the Philippines. What's really frustrating is that governments and health organizations, whoever's making these decisions, they can't make up their mind what they want. It changes so often. Now what they're saying is that you have to have a negative COVID test. Even if you're vaccinated, you've got to have a negative COVID test. And it's got to be either a PCR test 48 hours before you fly, or it's got to be an antigen test, also known as the rapid test, 24 hours before you fly. And the way that they seem to be calculating that is 24 hours before our original departure from the United States. And the best I can understand it, and I could use your help. If some of you know what the real deal is, if you've already gone over there recently and maybe come back, I'd like to hear what your experiences are. From what I'm understanding, it doesn't matter how long your flight takes or how many changes that you have, how many delays that you have, or even layovers or different flights. The clock starts ticking as soon as you get on that first flight. So in our case, as soon as we get on the first flight from San Antonio, Texas, and our final destination being the Philippines, that's when the time frame starts. So even if we get delayed for 6 hours somewhere, it doesn't really matter too much because we tested negative. Here's one challenge. I was thinking about we were all going to get the PCR test. Well, one of the local clinics I just talked to said, well, the PCR test could take 2 to 3 days to get the results. Well, if it can't be more than 48 hours old, that's not going to do us any good. Because what happens if it takes them 3 days to get us the results? That's too late. I guess we're going to have to take the rapid antigen test. But see, it's frustrating. And if you're not vaccinated, I believe you got to quarantine still in the Philippines if you're not vaccinated against COVID-19. So, and then we got to fill out this One Health Pass form. And now they keep changing what they want on the One Health Pass, I believe. At first they said like 3 days you could fill it out before you leave, and now it's 24 hours before you leave. And this has just been in the last couple of weeks since we booked our ticket. There's changes. So if you're traveling internationally anywhere, again, I'm talking about the Philippines, but wherever you're going on an international flight, you better be monitoring this stuff really well. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and he and his wife are booked to go to the Philippines. And I was telling him about this COVID test stuff, and I don't think he was completely aware of the COVID test requirements and the time frames and how everything is supposed to all fit together to be able to satisfy the government authorities. So I encouraged him to look into it. You might want to, if you haven't already, look at Jennifer Terri's YouTube videos. She puts out great videos. I will link below this video. I'll put down in the notes section a link to one of Jennifer Terri's videos. I will also put a link to the video I did a few weeks ago talking about booking a trip. We're going to be using Korean Airlines, and I think they're one of the best. I've flown them before, and their service is outstanding. I don't anticipate a lot of delays on Korean Airlines, but you never know in this day and age. You would think that by now, this is April 29th, 2022, as I'm recording this, you'd think we'd be kind of over the COVID stuff by now. I mean, wouldn't you think? We see not only cases declining, but deaths declining and things like that in almost all parts of the world. You hear these little reports of COVID popping up here and increasing over here and maybe another slight little variant, but I think I think the worst of COVID is behind us. And so I really wish that we would start acting like it. From what I understand, masks are still going to be required on the plane. Although I'll tell you, I went to the Philippines December 2020. My wife, myself, my two stepsons, we had to wear a face shield and a mask for 15 and a half hours on that flight from Los Angeles to Philippines. Let me tell you what, that sucked. Plain and simple. So at least now, perhaps no more face shields. No quarantines if you're vaccinated and you tested negative. That's a good thing. Just be real careful. I'm going to advise you, study this stuff. Don't just book your tickets and then, wait till the last minute. Follow this. Go to the different websites. Go to the website of the country that you're entering. Use a search engine to find out all this information. And by the way, speaking of search engines, use DuckDuckGo. Don't use Google. If you use Google, you're being tracked. Trust me, you're being tracked. It's not private searching. Go to DuckDuckGo. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got something out of this. And I'll be making more. I'm gonna do videos about leading up to it and the changes and things like that. As I find out information or changes, I'm going to share them with you. I'll be doing videos while I'm on the trip, sharing experiences with you on the airlines and to the different places that we go to in the Philippines. If you like this video, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel. It helps people find out more good information like this from me. Thanks again for watching another episode of Real Talk with Bob.